Greetings, citizens, and welcome back to the beautiful island of New Harris. This episode, I think I'm going to basically build some stuff. I mean, that's what I've been doing in all of the episodes so far anyway, but yeah, I want to have a bit more of an economic focus this time round. Last time was a bit more on the side of housing, although we did do these fish farms as well. I did also consider perhaps venturing into the field of tourism, but that can be a bit of a money sink, at least at first. I mean, it can be pretty lucrative, and you can in fact choose to go for tourism as your main focus, economically speaking, from the very start of the game. But unless you're going to start very small scale and build up gradually, if you actually want to build the stuff that tourists will then go and actually visit and spend their money at, you need enough capital up front to build a load of buildings, and you also need enough workforce to actually work in those buildings, although at least for the most part they require unskilled employees, so it's not that bad. It's not like where you start to seriously get into industry and suddenly you need a lot of high school educated people to go with it. So what I'm going to do is first off we're going to start by building a cement factory, which will generate some export income, but will also have a beneficial effect for myself, you know, building stuff as well. So what we'll do is find a suitable space for that, but I just quickly wanted to show you this before I go anywhere. So at the moment we are predominantly, you know, it's an agricultural economy basically. We've got a tiny bit from logging, a little bit from industry, but overall, yeah, it's farming that's paying the bills at the moment. So we do want to get a little bit more of an industrial focus, but no, it was industry, wasn't it? But you know, we're going to spread ourselves around a bit in this playthrough. I'm not going to exclusively go down the path of one thing or the other. We're going to do a bit of everything, so that means later on we'll have a go at maybe having some tourist buildings in play. Now what I can do is actually start a kind of new industrial area up here, so we'll need a garage for that, and we'll just build it in a big square, make it very American style. There's probably some shortcut for roads actually. There we go, the R key. Well, that's entirely logical, as one would expect. So yeah, that's a bit of a wonky square, but it's fine, it's good enough. So let's get the cement factory built up here, and this will cause some pollution, so we don't want it slap bang in the middle of the town. And we'll also need another where are we? Another garage to go with that. In fact, I'll block that on this side. So yeah, this will be a slightly less desirable place to live, but theoretically, you know, that'll help me out in terms of both generating some income and also making things a bit quicker. We'll limit the number of work slots to begin with. This does, you know, it's a factory. It does require high school educated workers, which are a bit of a scarce resource at the moment. One other thought I had was, no, not the dock, making bunkhouses rent-free. So we're going to do that and basically make it so that that's our cheapest type of housing. You can actually, no, that's hitting all the right buttons today. You can actually build shanties, which are the most basic housing you can build. The only thing worse than the shanty is the shacks that homeless citizens build themselves. But we'll go one up. We'll go with bunkhouses, which are still relatively cheap and provide at least some you know, not completely unreasonable housing quality to go with them. And if we can build some closer to the fire station as well, that obviously bumps the housing quality up from the base of 25 to 35, which is not completely horrible. It's better than a shack anyway. They want me to export 500 iron. Do I even have the capability of... Put that to one side for the moment. No, I want the overlay. You can tell it's been like a little while since I've forgotten where all the things are already. We have one iron deposit right over on the other side of the island. It's not that far, but I mean, in terms of getting that up and going just for the purposes of $5,000, we're going to spend way more than that. It would be cheaper to bump relations by spending money directly with the USSR. So yeah, we're not going to bother with that. I'm pretty sure I built a goat ranch last time, didn't I? We must have a ranch somewhere. Yeah, wait, there we go. Ranch goats.
Code red for hurricane danger.
Oh, so here we go. Bit of a disaster impending, but we won't have any fatalities, so that's fine. Can't do much about any property damage that may occur. At least nobody will die. Which is actually a good thing, because if it's, say, one of your high school or college educated citizens that gets killed, then that could actually be a bit of a problem. So what have we lost? 2 bunkhouses and a house, which is not too bad. They'll be relatively cheap. Where are the destroyed bunkhouses? Over here. So yeah, bunkhouses are super cheap. We'll also see if making the no, it's people. Is it people? No, it's economy. I always forget where. You'd think seeing, you know, how many people are homeless, but like unemployed makes sense, but homeless people, you would think, you know, you'd be able to see that information in the people tab, but no, it's in the economy tab, and that doesn't seem to have significantly decreased, although we do have some people moving in. Maybe I just need to build a couple more bunkhouses. We might do that as well. We're doing okay for money at the moment. The agricultural exports are bringing in a decent amount of cash. I didn't need to click that away. Well done, brain. So we are not in any danger of overreaching as far as money's concerned. I'm not rushing to... Like, I tend to have a cautious approach to city building games anyway. You probably could take a far riskier approach and build things in certain orders to, you know, with the potential of screwing yourself over, but then maybe you would also reap bigger rewards in a shorter time frame. But yeah, I tend to play fairly cautiously. I don't know what the overall penalties for going into negative income are for this game. I mean, for something like CK2, for example, there's a very clear, defined set of penalties, and the longer it goes on, you know, the worse the potential result can be, because there are kind of events that can pop up. You know, your provinces can get hit individually by events as a result of being at negative income. But in this, it just seems to have a negative effect on foreign relations. It's not like you stop paying your workers and so therefore everybody goes on strike, for example. So there's not really a huge incentive to avoid it, other than you can't actually build anything or do anything. And there are sometimes ways to get yourselves out of debt, which might be more expensive in the long run, but you know, if you choose to host a foreign military base on your island, for example, which could have negative long-term consequences. Right, the Minister of Education has been asked to be a guest star. Cost of Academy of Science lowered by 50%. Nice, okay, I think that's a permanent bonus. Or is it just for the next one I build? But that's quite a nice little random event anyway, because the Academy of Science will be a useful one to build at some point. It lowers the cost of researching blueprints, but perhaps more importantly, if your player, like President Avatar, gets killed, which can happen, they basically, and I assume if it happens, you know, you lose your game essentially. You know, you've lost that particular playthrough. But yeah, the Academy of Science will clone you essentially, which I'm not entirely sure the technology would have existed for that, but you know, it's one of the more explicitly gamey things, even though there are a lot of very gamey things in this game. So there's the factory. We have no workers yet. I wonder if the almanac will show me. No, it'd be nice if it will break it down on education level. So we've got a bunch of people unemployed with, I'm assuming, not any particular education. So what I'm going to do, we'll build something that's fairly useful just to have more of anyway. I bet that requires we might build one of these at some point just to bring pollution level down even more, but no, a Teamster's office which sucks up a bunch of low skill workers, and it's one of these things where there's no direct way of necessarily telling if you need more of them. It tends to, you just have to kind of keep an eye on if you're getting a bottleneck with your exports, essentially. And if you start to have things piling up in factories and logging camps and all the rest of it, at that point, yeah, you can tell you don't have enough Teamsters moving things around. But despite having some free housing, we still have people in shacks. I'm not entirely sure if it's just people not being close enough to where they want to work. Although that's somebody who works at a farm who's living all the way over here, although it might be this farm here that's kind of a legacy from the starting buildings. We might remove that at some point. One other thing I did want to build particularly, and I mentioned this in the last episode, was the labour camp. And we could build some cash crop, or have it farm cash crops, and like any other farm, you can change it as you go. But what I'm going to do is just make it corn, so it's and you could export corn as well. It doesn't have a particularly high price, but yeah, it'll basically serve a twofold purpose of producing food, and also it will give us somewhere to lock up criminals when they'll actually do something useful. Now, I don't know if I need a police station on top of... No, we already have a police station, of course. Duh. Because prisons and labour camps also have police officers as their staff, essentially. And I don't know if you just built that, whether it would have the effect of sort of acting kind of like a police station, in that you can arrest people but not necessarily reducing crime, whereas the actual police station has a crime reduction effect. So you could maybe early on cheap out and just build a labour camp instead of a police station, and then you've got something to do with your criminals, and you can kind of make them useful, as it were, as opposed to a prison where you just lock them up and they get rehabilitated over time. I presume this also has a rehabilitation effect, but I don't know for sure. I think people do get released after a while, but it's one of these things where it's kind of hard to know without going and looking it up on a wiki. I'm not really as familiar with the mechanics of this game as I am with, say, Paradox games, where I've played them a lot more. Got some little gaps here, let's fill them in. Maybe wedge in a nice fountain, and City Park. I think I looked at this in a previous one, didn't I? We might build that at some point, but that's pretty huge. Yeah, let's plonk down some benches or statues. I hit the wrong... So I've just found out, unsurprisingly, the delete key brings up the... Oh, nope. You really have to, there's a whole bunch of default keybinds for buildings. I suppose it's supposed to be the common buildings. But yeah, it's ones like this I'm looking for. Now, unfortunately, because you've got this 45-degree rotation, you can't do smaller increments than that. So it can be a bit awkward fitting it in sometimes. So I guess we'll have to do. But yeah, it'd be nice if it was like a Kerbal Space Program, where you've got your kind of default amount of rotation, and then you had oh, that one doesn't come with a concrete surround, never mind, we'll leave it anyway. Yeah, where you can have smaller increments of rotation is what I interrupted myself there saying. We could maybe fit one in that gap as well, actually. stuff like decorations. I mean, it doesn't serve any. You'll see people going and sitting down in them and that sort of thing, but it's purely aesthetic for the most part. But it does increase the environmental rating. Statues are slightly different. I may have pointed this out previously, but statues, I don't know if this statue does, but statues from the statue tool will have the specific effect of increasing what is it? They decrease, don't click on it, increase safety but decrease liberty. I really am doing well today with, just generally doing well with stuff and things. They're taking a while getting around to repairing, but I did give them a bunch of stuff to build as well. So we've got some people in our concrete plant. I really wish you could tell how many... We might as well open up the rest of those slots, actually. I really wish you could tell how many unemployed people you have per educational level. It would make planning certain things a lot easier. See, I would have thought that sweatshop would have filled up because we still have a bunch of unemployed folks, but apparently not. Unless it's just... I'm just being impatient and it needs longer to happen. New building unlocked. Modern apartment. That's going to be a DLC thing. That's probably super fancy compared to the where are we? Oh, that replaces the... I wonder if these can be upgraded. The standard apartment block. That's that's definitely a DLC thing. Because some of the DLC, like the fish farm, for example, replaces the previous one, but then others they just kind of pop up, like the sanatorium. So, yeah, we might have to build some of those. Those by default cost 5 megawatts, though. But I suspect it's going to be good housing quality. We've got the money to just build one, and we've got the power. That is fancy. It comes with its own helipad on the roof. I mean, for goodness sake. For the size, you would hope it would have more housing space than it does, than the default apartments. That looks like it's equivalent to the tenement housing space. And it looks like it's going to be similar housing quality. Okay, so it's not better housing quality, but it does offer more housing space. So that's actually quite handy. No elections? No. We don't do elections. No. Haven't you been paying attention, Penultimo? So we'll keep these here. There's no point in demolishing them, but yeah, overall that's not a bad building. That looks like around the same footprint. In fact, it might be a slightly smaller building footprint. And I wonder if the edicts... nope, that's the... I'm doing so well today. Modern Times edicts. Oh, I wonder if these... okay, these are all new. Wonder when these popped up. Ban social networks. Oh, I think we might be doing that at some point. Healthcare reform. Army drill. Okay. Police state. Oh. No criminals will appear while this edict is active. Well, that's kind of tempting, but on the other hand, how am I going to get my free labour? So, although it's kind of tempting to make this an authoritarian, totalitarian, but friendly, approachable kind of dictatorship, we might not want to do that. The banning social networks thing sounds good, though. I'm not going to lie. Right, so let's see how this apartment block looks. Because none of this stuff is in the default campaign. It doesn't integrate at all. So we can... Oh, we can even This building does not create crime. That's just a straight 1,000. We can even put climate control, like basically air conditioning, which has the same effect. So that actually will effectively be better quality housing once that's taken into account. We've got 29 out of 39, so I'll need another wind turbine soon. And electricity, like, you're not charging people for electricity in this game, and water just kind of happens. It's not like SimCity or City Skylines where you've got to provide the entire infrastructure. But electricity ends up just being, you know, a thing you give away for free. And so as you require more electricity over time, it becomes a much bigger and bigger cost. Right, she thinks that a college would be good, but we're going to hold off on that. We've been, I think, just importing college-educated people so far. Even on bigger islands with much bigger population, the number of work slots that a college has always seems way more than you'll ever actually need in terms of people that become students. I'm not sure why. Right, they want increased export volume, that's fine. Some of that stuff we are actually exporting. The cement factory is already starting to make a bit of money, which is good. We're getting the increased build times as a result as well, which is also handy. There goes my work camp. So what we can do is arrest some people. We can throw people in chokey. I'm trying to think of synonyms for prison now. The big house. It's not really the big house, but you know, clap them in irons and make them work. What am I looking for? Criminals. There we go. Herpaderp. Right. So we've got 9 people, and this does cost us money. So we don't necessarily want to hugely spam it. Arresting people is apparently really quite expensive. But let's say do 5 and lock up these reprobates, and we might be able to. And I've clicked on the map, and I meant to do that. Honest. If I click to. Wait, how do I follow? I might just have to look for the little marker. There he is. So he's got the little thing over his head, and basically some cops will turn up and arrest him. But I've marked a bunch of people for arrest all at the same time. So wait, didn't I? Did we just fulfill that like super quickly? Maybe we did. I don't know. Come on, cops, where are you? They'll get there eventually. But it sometimes, you know, can take a while for the police to show up, because I've only got 3 policemen in the police station, and I presume those are the ones that go and arrest people. But I don't know. It might be the case that the ones from the prisons and labour camps can also go and arrest people. Which would have to be the case for my earlier speculation to be true. I do find it slightly annoying that you can't, like, paint the concrete foundation to fill in these gaps. The only way you can do it is by putting down these gardens and decorations, which sometimes leads to things not looking quite as tidy as they could do. Right, have I missed him being arrested? Maybe. Or have I just deselected him? Where's he gone? Maybe he's been arrested already. Anyway, I was all set to show you people being arrested, and now I seem to have lost him. Oh, there we go. Yeah, they make him run all the way. What will happen is that I think they essentially kind of become a de facto farmer. I don't know if this then trains them as a farmer, because people do get trained in the profession they're working at over time. New building unlocked, biofarm. What the heck is a biofarm? So it's basically the modernised farm. I say modernised, we're only into 1967. So if I was building another farm at this point, it would be one of these. Right, that takes up rather more space than the standard farm. We could maybe get rid of this one as well, actually. I don't know. It's a bit, you know, it's fine, but it's a bit of an eyesore.
New modern options are available, and we must use them.
Pay for all... Oh, actually, we'll do this. Okay, we've got the cash. That's just going to instant upgrade our existing apartment blocks. And that really increases the amount of spacing and the overall housing quality, which is going to be a big boon. And we've got plenty of megawatts left over. And they're generating lower crime, which is actually kind of useful. So how are we doing for population? Unemployment. Unemployment's actually climbing a bit, which we'll have to be careful about, because of course that does affect your overall happiness via the job quality rating. But we're not doing too badly across the board. I mean, we've got got a couple of things firmly in the green. Liberty we don't care about. What would liberty? I mean, it's just a meaningless word, really, isn't it? But yeah, housing quality should climb. Religion quality, entertainment, healthcare quality. So entertainment we can probably do something about right now. The Shippo-Rant. Okay, it's basically a novelty restaurant. We could build that. Movie theatre. Regular theatre. Movie theatre's cheaper. So we'll build a cinema. Movie theatre. It's a cinema, but you know, it's got that American English going on, I guess. We'll stick it in this space here, because this isn't one that needs to be behind a road. So we can stick that there. People can walk along a nice little... let's use one of the DLC ones. People can walk along a nice little kind of tree-lined path or some such thing. Yeah, let's just build some benches there, and that's fine. And that'll provide entertainment, a couple more working places, and it also doubles up as one of the locations that tourists can potentially visit. Export oil products. I don't think we'll do that one. I mean, it would give me oil refinery blueprints. Well, maybe that's worth doing, because you can set buildings, industrial buildings, to import resources automatically, but that can end up being quite costly. And I don't know if we have any... Oh, we do have some oil sources on the building, on the buildings on the map. And if you build the oil refinery, that's how those get harvested. So you know what? We'll actually take that one up. I mean, the oil refineries do generate a bit of pollution, but it's also going to give us some more, you know, industrial exports. Issue conscription. No, I don't think we'll bother with that one. And they still haven't arrested many of these people. Being very slow about it, but I do have only 3 cops. Maybe increase that space by 1. I'd rather people go and work at the cement factory, but people would prefer to work where there's better working conditions, basically. So infrastructure, we'll build it over in this area here, so it's well away from everything else. Well, not that far away, but you know, far enough. So it will be... apparently we already had it. Oh, did that unlock it for us? Okay, I think that did unlock it for us. For some reason... Well, maybe I had done that already. I don't know. I thought it was going to give it to me for half price, but I think it just straight unlocked it for me, unless I had unlocked it already. I can't remember if I'd looked at oil previously. I remember talking about oil at one point and then not being able to figure out how you get the offshore oil, and then realising it's the oil refinery. So, yeah. Is there anything else under construction at the moment? We'll just get that up to the highest priority, because why not? And then they'll come and build this, and we'll also need... Oh, actually, no, I don't think we will need... I don't think we will need a garage. I think this is one that comes with its own garage, essentially. Most of the buildings that have that require a road connection are related to having their own garage for work purposes, so they can, you know, move the materials in and out, essentially. So, road. But actually, I don't think this one does. I could have sworn the refinery did, but apparently I was making that up. So, infrastructure, build a garage. And we can pay for extra storage capacity, but I don't think we really need to at the moment. Yeah, export oil, that's fine. We'll also allow... Actually, no, I don't think we have to... I don't think we do have to allow imports. I'm not sure if these are... Like, the ones on land are limited, like, land deposits of minerals, like the iron that's up there, but I'm not sure about the ones in the water. 2 citizens became criminals. Well, actually, we can throw a couple more into the work camp.
Muy buena.
Excelencia. Muy buenas.
Because there's plenty of spaces.
Sí.
And they'll just generate a bit of food and a bit of cash, essentially. I think we might get rid of this farm here. I think El Presidente is a bit tired of looking out the back and seeing all of those country bumpkins, you know, spoiling the view of the marvellous tenement housing blocks. So, yeah, let's get rid of that. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their... Oh, yeah, housing quality. Super high. And that should have a really good effect on my... housing quality happiness. Yeah, that's, I think, slowly starting to climb. We'll build something there that I don't know, I could just build some gardens around, but we might build theatre, the Museum of Modern Art, maybe? Well, that won't quite fit. We'll find something that can go in that gap eventually. And this work camp is hopefully going to kind of take over the corn production that's coming from this farm here. It has displaced a few people, however, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, how are we doing for high school education? So we're a bit kind of oversubscribed with the teachers versus places, but we could think about... Oh, I don't know if I did this already. We could think about building a grade school, which will increase the overall... is it government? Education. Obviously it's in education. Yeah, it'll increase the, hopefully, overall educational standards of the island, and mean that we'll get more people go through the high school eventually. Let's build it opposite the cathedral. That's fine. Now, stuff like this just ends up becoming a drain on your cash, so I'm not usually in a rush to do it right away, but we're getting to the stages where we're starting to need a much more educated workforce. Although there are still plenty of buildings that you can build that only require uneducated workers, but I mean, stuff like this, for example, needs college education. Police station, troops require high school education, although there is an edict that means you can have untrained people It'd be nice to get some more production out of the distillery, for example, but we're still getting some pretty decent cash out of this overall. Not a huge amount year on year, though. But we do now have enough cash and enough megawattage to boost the... There we go. We're skirting a bit close. We've still got 10 megawatts to play with, though. But yeah, that'll increase the output of that. We might also bump up wages. I don't want to go completely mad, so we'll bump up all wages by 1 apart from college educated for the time being. And the less of a gap there is between the high and the low wages, I think that affects overall population happiness as well.
Mother Nature is happy.
Demolish all farms. I think we'll accept that one. This might be a more long-term one. But it's a chance to build some of the new biofarms, but we won't do them all at once because that would have a pretty big impact on our exports, because that's I think agricultural is still our main industry's going up a little bit, but it's still basically farming that's providing the bulk of our income. But if they produce more, then yeah, that would... I think these are all the kind of cash crop farms. Coffee, so this will be things like... These are all the... Oh, that's sugar. We'll replace this with one of the new biofarms, so we'll do that. Because that's not going to have an overall effect on... the economic situation, and I don't think we've got a market yet. Oh, organic ranch, that's a new thing as well. Oh, we did have markets. It's now been replaced by supermarkets. I think we could in fact build one of those. It has a slightly bigger footprint than a market, but yeah, we'll squeeze one in behind the police station. That's fine. And people can have that as a central distribution point for food. But the also reason I'm building this is that you can then set markets to import food, whereas if the people are getting it from wharves and farms directly, it doesn't work that way, I don't think. There's no option to import food directly. You have to have a building that can import a resource. Export 500 llama wool. Well, what we can do is where's our ranch? That's not exactly been super duper. It's been providing food, that's fine, but it's not been providing a lot of cash, so what we can just actually swap that over to being a llama ranch and see how that goes. So yeah, let's get this farm demolished and replaced with a bio farm and see how that looks. It does take up a fair chunk of area, but I am kind of curious to see. This is just going to be corn. Ah, and you can actually set them. So it's not just one type of crop. Oh, okay, that makes up for it then a bit. That it's not just like the base farms where it's, you know, it's a single type of crop per farm. I mean, with the corn it is. Corn's your basically your principal food crop. But yeah, no, you can set it to build or to grow different kinds of crops at once, and hopefully. No, it doesn't actually. Doesn't employ as many people, so that's kind of not that useful. Sometimes it's handy to just be able to plonk down farms so that it's not only, you know, generating extra cash via exports, but also it's a good way, a relatively cheap way of providing employment that pays for itself essentially.
My friend, I know.
Oh, here we go. I think I mentioned this earlier on. You don't get the camel, but you get some cash.
and I must.
And I can't remember how much we paid, but that's got to be at least double what we paid. So yeah, that's kind of, you know, if you know about that event, that one's a bit of a no-brainer. So let's see the bio farm getting built. I don't know if this is going to be, if it's supposed to be like hydroponics or aquaponics, or... Okay, I'm guessing that's just it clipping a bit with the terrain. It's not supposed to have that weird jagged edge. But okay, so this is just going to be a big circular farm. The actual farm building is a little... like, it's supposed to be totally modern and everything, but you compare it to the normal farm building, which actually looks like a collection of farm buildings, and then this looks a bit... yeah, I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's just a kind of metal, weird half pipe shack thing. So, we'll see. How are we doing for employment? It's come down a little bit, but it's still perhaps a little on the higher side. The grade school should be... There we go. Yeah, that's fully built up. Do we want to change the mode of operation? We might go for spelling bee contests. And I hope the higher intelligence thing means that we'll have more people going through to high school education. Oh, the supermarket's built as well, which is good. Not fully staffed yet, but that can import if need be. It's more just like a safety valve feature, having something that can import foods. It's not something you particularly want to do in the long run, but it does give you a bit of breathing space to get set up. So how's this farm, how does this work? Don't know. Guess we'll see over time. I might also swap out, having just put that ranch onto llamas, we might swap that out for an organic ranch, which would need to be in roughly the same place, I guess.
I am bored. Entertain me.
I wondered why I suddenly got the...
You are late.
Oh, there she...
Hurry and
Where is she?
You will be dazzled.
Is she inside
by
there?
my
She must be.
charm.
Yeah, I was wondering why I suddenly heard the voice lines and then realised, oh yeah, no, I clicked on that button, which I clearly meant to do.
President,
Issue the pollution
how about
standards
do
edict.
something nice for the environment? It will show everyone how
Not for now.
green and
Increase the cost of things, and so yeah, we don't necessarily want to do that just now. I should probably also start to think about wrapping this episode up. I mean, in terms of industrialization, it's not like I've done a huge amount, but we have built the refinery, which isn't making any cash yet, but will do eventually, and we could in fact extend the substation over there. Cram one into a nook behind the school, that's fine. We need a couple of substations. But yeah, we want to... I don't know, this is an interesting thing with the DLC, this kind of modernising, which you don't really get with the base game, so it does kind of make the DLC worth it. We don't even have full occupancy on those buildings. Right, housing is not going to be a problem for a while. I mean, that little upgrade, you know, the option to just click a button and upgrade all of them rather than having to demolish them, that was actually kind of useful. They do look a bit daft all having helicopter pads on the top though. It's not quite the variation you get with the other buildings. I mean, clearly there's a bit of variation in height, and you can see the windows are a slightly different colour, I think. Or is it just... no, I don't even think there's a colour variation anymore. Anyway. It's almost a little disappointing, but never mind. Right, how's the demolishing going? Has that been done yet? It's almost a pity it doesn't just happen like automatically. It'd be nice if it did. I've got a little spur of road off there. Why not? Road is cheap. A man frantically pushing a wheelbarrow. Which I think must be one of the Teamsters. I'm not sure. Right, there we go. Food and resources, organic ranch, and this is going to be llama. Right, so this does take up a little bit more space, but we'll just slot it in next to that farm. And because there are builders nearby, they're just immediately working on that, which is quite nice. We could build another construction office actually, that would soak up some unskilled, unemployed.
Presidente, there has been a huge revolution in several Middle Eastern countries.
Well, that's fine. Let's go with a loss of Middle Eastern relations for that choice. The structure, construction office. Yeah, will fit into that gap quite nicely. Again, it's the sort of thing you don't really notice until you start wondering why everything is taking so long to get built, and then you think, oh yeah, no, maybe I need to build more construction offices. Right, there we go, the corn's starting to sprout, but yeah, this is clearly some kind of model clipping issue with the terrain. I don't think it's supposed to look like that. Slightly mars the effect, but never mind. Right, we've got like 6 spaces left, so we could bung a few more criminals in jail.
Muy buenas. No me interesa. ¿Qué? Muy buenas.
You know what, we might as well do all of the extant criminals. Did I heard a little ting, which usually means a mission marker's popped up. Might have been that one.
Comrade, we have a
7k, okay, sure. Why not? That substation, there we go. Extend that substation out there. That's presumably one of the... We'll build a bunkhouse. Just to pull the housing quality up. I really am not clear on the rules of how close people like to live to their place of work, because sometimes people seem to be happy to commute halfway across the map, and other times they just build a shack right next door to where they're working. And yeah, like I say, it's really not clear. Right, these two farms will have to be a little further apart. Organic ranch, does that just produce all kinds of... It must do. But I think that also hires has more work slots than a regular ranch, but I don't have a regular ranch to compare it with. Right, the lumber mill's starting to stack up a bit. Do we have 10 megawatts of power? Don't think so. I think we need another wind turbine if we can. Okay, can't quite squeeze one into where it's getting 39, but 38's still pretty good. I think you must get all kinds from the organic ranch. It must work that way. Right, this farm, coffee farm, we can replace that with a cash crop bio farm. I think there's enough space here. Yep, there will be. So this one's been quite profitable. I think coffee's been one of the better exports, and you can build a canning factory which will produce freeze-dried coffee, which can then be even more valuable, but I don't think we have the educated workforce enough for that yet. So let's demolish that one, replace that with the biofarm, and we might even call it an episode at that point, because we're getting on for wow, longer than I thought. Okay, 50 minutes. I've been recording for just over 50 minutes. I have built you a nice rent-free bunkhouse with twice the housing value, so you'd think they would move in, but anyway, never mind. There's no pleasing some people. Well, we're getting a bit of pollution from that, but overall nothing too bad. I think having those two close together has probably not been the best idea. That seems to have hurt the overall productivity. But there's a nice green stretch here, so we could maybe put one here at some point. In fact, we'll do that now as well. You know, food might not give you the most return for your investment as a in terms of exports and the rest of it, but everybody needs food. It's a constant quality, and it's employment for 3 more people, so yeah. So let's get that demolished. And biofarm. It's a little harder to see the outlines actually. Right, I thought I'd be able to fit one in here, but I can't easily move the prison camp, and I'm not sure why. So this location can't be flattened. Really? Okay, then I mean, they give you more utility in terms of multiple crops at once, but man, they're a lot more annoying to actually place. So it's still okay. That's weird. When you're placing it down, it's still the same single options, but I guess so you can see the individual, you know, what's suitable where. I might even struggle to... Yeah, you can squeeze farms into places where, as long as there's enough suitable land around them, it's fine, but these biofarms are... I almost wish you retained the option to still have the old farms, because leaving that old farm there would have, as it turns out, been better. But never mind. I guess we'll put it here. It's not the best spot for it, but it's close to existing infrastructure. Or I could maybe stick it in here. Oh, we're already going to have to shift that one up there, and I don't even know if we can fit one in this gap here, so I think we might leave those 2 existing farms alone. Yeah, okay, it's not necessarily the best spot, but we'll put one there. Yeah, I kind of wish I'd left that farm alone now, but there's no way to tell that I couldn't put down the biofarm there without demolishing the other farm first. RIP. Never mind. I could change this to coffee rather than corn to take advantage of the fact that coffee grows well there, but nah, we'll leave that as corn. How's the other farm coming on? Well, that's not too shabby looking, apart from the weird graphical visual glitch. I'm also doing okay with our exports. Although, actually, no, I can't not demolish these, can I? Because I've got the mission to, and otherwise I'm just going to perpetually have that mission. That's annoying. SWAT headquarters. That's going to be government, right? Beware of Presidente's dreaded SWAT team. I might have to build that at some point. So yeah, we'll get this biofarm built, and I think we'll actually wrap up the episode there. But economically we're doing pretty well. We've played a couple of years. Got some of the new structures slapped down. Better housing for everybody, and that actually should have trickled through at this point to the overall happiness rating. Oh yeah, housing quality is now in the green. It's above 60%. which is really good. We could maybe do with a church as well, actually. Just slap a church down somewhere. Or even unlock that slot. That would be a bit of a... Yeah, we'll do that. I think we're starting to get more educated, high school educated people through, he says, with there being nobody there at the moment. Oh well. Right, this one looks how it's supposed to. That's fine, and we'll do the same with a couple of bunkhouses here. Or even some... these people have enough wages to manage the rent for some country houses. We'll put some country houses there, that's no problem. So, yeah, that's it for now. We're doing alright, I think. I'm not sitting on huge piles of cash necessarily, but the economy's looking pretty healthy overall. We've increased our industry exports quite dramatically. Our farming exports are down at the moment, but I mean, just demolishing that one coffee farm will have had probably a fairly big effect in that. So once this farm up here comes online, hopefully that will then pick up again a bit. But yeah, I do want to be a little more industry than agriculturally focused. Although you can't just do a pure agricultural focus. Just be 100% about exporting agricultural products and crops. But it becomes a bit more efficient, you know, money-wise, to then build factories and things later on that can use those raw materials, those raw crops, to produce things like rum and canned fruit, canned coffee, stuff like that. So yeah. But overall, I think this has been a fairly decent episode, and everyone's reasonably happy. We've got average pay on the par with Caribbean pay. Unemployment's a little bit high. Homelessness is still a little bit high, considering I've basically given them all free housing, but I think that just means we need to build some more bunk houses maybe next time. But yeah, it still helped though. I mean, this has probably helped more than making the bunk houses free, but it's still certainly helped. So that's it for this episode of Tropico. You can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.